They say this town was built on whispers.
I didn't come to San Ilario to be brave. I came because I was tired of being ordinary. I'm a voice guy. Radios, ads, late-night narration, anything that pays. When a folklorist named Dr. Mena emailed me about field recordings in a forgotten salt town on the edge of the Salar, I said yes before I even checked a map. The message was short, too polite, and weirdly specific. Bring your best recorder. Do not
It is not
use
safe.
your phone microphone.
You must not enter.
Do not whistle at night. San Ilario wasn't on my GPS. The app showed an empty smear of beige and a road that ended like a sentence cut off mid-thought. The bus dropped me at a fuel station with one light that buzzed like a trapped insect. The driver didn't look at me when he said, "You'll walk the rest. The town doesn't like engines after dark." I laughed like an idiot. The air was thin and sharp, salt-sweet. The horizon looked too clean, like someone had erased it. I started walking with my backpack and recorder case, boots crunching on white crust. Every step sounded loud, too loud, the kind of loud that makes you whisper in your own head to balance it. There were small stone markers along the path, stacked rocks with bits of twine and scraps of cloth tied around them, offerings, warnings. The cloth moved even when the air didn't. After maybe an hour, I saw the town. San Ilario sat low, half sunk into salt and dust, as if it had been pressed down by a heavy hand. Buildings the color of bone. A church tower like a finger pointed at the sky. No power lines, no cell signal, only a few lamps inside windows, dim and tired. And yet I felt watched in the way you feel watched by a photograph. At the entrance there was a sign painted in careful letters. "Welcome to San Ilario. Please speak softly." A second line had been added beneath it, like someone couldn't help themselves. "The salt listens." I said the town's name out loud, San Ilario, because I always say names, habit. And the moment I did, the sound felt wrong. Not because it echoed, but because it didn't. My voice landed and died like a bird hitting glass. A woman stepped out of a doorway as I passed. She was older, wrapped in a shawl. Her eyes flicked to my recorder case. "You're the man with the voice," she said. I stopped. "I guess so." "Don't give it away," she replied, like that was normal conversation. And then she went back inside. I kept moving, suddenly aware of my own breathing, the wet click of saliva in my mouth, the tiny noises a body makes when it's alive. The town felt built for silence, designed so sound would stand out like blood on snow. A man met me near the small plaza, where the ground looked cracked, not from dryness, but from pressure, like something beneath had tried to lift it. He introduced himself as Tomas, the only person Dr. Mena trusted here. He was in his 30s, face wind-worn, eyes too alert. He didn't shake my hand, he just nodded, and his gaze kept sliding past me, checking corners. "You walked in after sunset," he accused me. "It's not that late. It's late for voices." Then he pointed at the church tower. "You see the bells?" I squinted. A set of bells hung there, dark and still. They're made of salt copper, old work. They ring for storms. They ring for funerals. They ring when the town needs to remember. and sometimes they ring when the town needs to forget. I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. He led me to a small room behind a closed storefront, my lodging apparently. One bed, one chair, a single lamp, walls lined with salt stains like pale veins. Tomas set down a cup of water like it was a ritual. 2 rules. I heard. No, not those rules. Real rules. He held up 2 fingers. 1, don't record inside the church. Okay. 2, if you hear someone call your name outside at night, do not answer. Do not even think it loudly. I tried to joke. What if it's you? He stared at me until the joke dried in my mouth. It won't be me, he said. It will be the salt. When he left, the room felt smaller. I set up my recorder anyway, my good one, the one that hears everything, even what people try to hide between words. Outside, the town quieted further, like someone turning a dial. The lamps went dim. The wind didn't rise, but I heard a faint sound all the same. A distant, thin ringing, so quiet it felt like it was happening inside my teeth. I lifted my recorder and hit record, and the waveform on the little screen moved, even though nothing in the room spoke. I played the recording back immediately. Bad habit, professional habit, curiosity habit. At first it was just room tone, the faint electrical hiss of the recorder's preamps, the soft rub of my sleeve. Then, beneath that, something else, an almost human exhale that wasn't mine. Slow, patient, like someone practicing how to breathe. I stopped playback. The room was still. I played it again. The breathing returned, clearer, with a faint wet grit to it, like lungs full of dust. I stood up, looked under the bed, checked the corners, checked the window that didn't fully seal. Nothing. No one. I tried to convince myself it was wind, but the air was dead, the kind of dead that makes you hear your pulse in your ears, and the breathing on the recording had rhythm, intent. A soft knock came at the door. My spine tightened. I didn't answer, just moved carefully, quietly. Tomas spoke through the wood. You started recording. I opened the door a crack. He stood in the dim hallway, face lit by weak lamp glow. How did you know? He pointed to my recorder like it was an open flame. The town knows. That's not an answer. It is here. He leaned in slightly. Did you hear it? I hesitated, breathing. He nodded once, as if I'd confirmed a measurement. Good. It means it noticed you, but it hasn't taken your voice yet. I swallowed. Taken? Tomas stepped inside without asking, moved like he'd lived with fear long enough to make it practical. You're here for stories. The town is full of stories, but stories are food. Do you understand? I'm not sure. He took a small pouch from his pocket and spilled a pinch of coarse salt into his palm. In the light, the grains looked oddly varied, some white, some metallic, some tinged faintly pink. This salt was mined under the church, old tunnel, older than the bell tower. They used to pull it out and trade it. Then the tunnel began to speak. He snapped his fingers near the salt. The grains trembled like they disliked sound. In San Ilario, sound doesn't just travel, it settles, it stays, it builds up in the ground like water in a basin. He looked at me hard, and something down there drinks it. I wanted to laugh again. I didn't.
Tomas pointed at the recorder. "You brought a tool that captures sound, that makes you interesting." I asked the question I didn't want to ask. What happens if it takes your voice? Tomas didn't answer right away. He listened, head tilted, like he was hearing a distant song. People go quiet, not like they choose silence, like their words don't belong to them anymore. They open their mouths and only dust comes out, or they speak in someone else's tone. Sometimes they repeat things they've never lived. Sometimes they call you by a name you've never had. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. There are old recordings in this town, voices from 100 years ago, and they still answer. My throat felt tight. So why are you still here? Tomas looked towards the church tower, visible through the narrow window slit. Because my mother is under there, not buried, not dead, just kept. I stared. Kept? Where? He didn't say underground. He didn't say tunnel. He just said, in the listening. Another sound drifted in, thin ringing again. A bell, very far away, but not in the tower, more like the salt itself vibrating. Tomas flinched. "Don't speak," he whispered. "It's awake." I held my breath. In the silence, my body made betrayal noises, a small swallow, a slight shift of fabric. And right then, from outside, a voice called softly, not loud, not threatening, familiar, warm. My voice. "Hey, it's okay. Come outside." Tomas's eyes widened, furious and afraid. He pressed a finger to his lips. I froze. Every part of me wanted to answer myself, to correct it, to prove ownership. But the rule wasn't just don't answer, it was don't even think it loudly. So I did something childish and desperate. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, like numbers could build a wall. The voice outside tried again, gentler. "Don't be rude. We only want to talk." Tomas leaned close to my ear, barely moving his lips. "If you answer, it learns you. It learns your shape." The doorknob turned slowly, testing. But the door didn't open because Tomas had poured a thin line of salt across the threshold. The knob stopped turning. Silence returned, like a held breath releasing. Tomas exhaled and looked at me like I'd almost stepped off a cliff. "You came here for a voice job. Now you have one." He pointed at the recorder again. "Tomorrow you record the town's rules, not for you, for it. And if I don't," Tomas's expression hardened, "then it will record you."
Morning in San Ilario looked like the world had been bleached. The salt flats beyond the town were bright enough to hurt. The sky was hard blue, empty. The buildings didn't look abandoned, just resigned. People moved quietly, not like they were sad, but like they were saving something. Tomas walked me through the plaza. We passed a butcher with no meat, a school with no children, a cafe that served hot water and herbs without names. Everyone stared at my recorder case, not with curiosity, with recognition. Tomas led me to a wall near the church where someone had painted rules in faded black. "Speak softly. Don't sing after dark. Don't whistle ever. Don't call someone twice. Don't say your full name out loud. Don't record the bells. Don't enter the tunnel. If the salt calls you, pretend you're not home." I read them aloud before I thought. It was automatic, voice work reflex. Tomas grabbed my sleeve hard.
don't aloud. I shut my mouth. My cheeks burned. You can record them, but don't perform them, he said. We stood at a distance from the church doors. The wood was old and swollen, stained white at the bottom as if it had been dipped in salt water. Why can't I record the bells? I asked quietly. Tomas's jaw tightened. Because the bells don't just ring, they answer. I thought about the faint ringing at night and my stomach dipped. He handed me a small paper wrapped around something hard, a gift. Inside was a tiny wax plug shaped like an earbud. Put it in one ear at night, he said. Only one. You need to hear enough to know you're not dreaming, but not enough to learn the song. The song? Tomas didn't answer. He pointed at the church tower. In daylight, the bells looked ordinary, tarnished metal, salt corrosion. But around the bell mounts, the air looked slightly wrong, as if heat shimmered there without heat. We walked the town perimeter. At the far edge, where the buildings thinned, the salt crust broke into shallow pits, old dig marks. The ground here had a faint branching pattern, like veins, like cracks. Tomas crouched and brushed salt aside with his fingertips. Underneath was something darker, a thin seam in the earth, a line like a closed mouth. He stood up fast, wiped his hands on his pants like he touched rot. "Don't step on the seams," he said. "Why?" "Because they feel it." We returned to the plaza, where an old man sat under a cloth canopy, carving something with a blunt knife. He looked up as we approached, and his eyes went straight at me. "You're the one who will make it hungry," he said, calmly. I stopped. "I don't want to." The old man shrugged. "Hunger doesn't ask permission." Tomas spoke before I could. "He's here to record, not to feed." The old man made a sound that might have been a laugh if the town allowed laughter. Same thing. He held up what he was carving, a small bell. It wasn't metal. It was salt, packed and shaped, reinforced with wire. "Put it on your door," the old man told me. "If it rings, don't open. If it doesn't ring, don't open either." I stared. "Then when do I open?" He smiled without warmth. "When the sun is rude." Tomas paid him with something, a small twist of cloth, maybe herbs, maybe money. I didn't say. As we walked away, I asked, "Why are they helping me?" Tomas's eyes stayed forward. "They're not helping you, they're helping the town." That afternoon, I recorded ambiance, footsteps on salt crust, the creak of shutters, distant wind that sounded more like friction than air. My recorder picked up strange resonances near the church, low frequencies that made my teeth ache. When evening came, the town dimmed again. People retreated indoors like tide water pulling back. Tomas met me outside my room with a serious face. "Tonight," he said, "it will try you again." I felt my throat tighten. "Why tonight?" He glanced at the church tower. "Because you arrived yesterday." "That's it?" He nodded. "It counts days. It counts voices." He handed me a small pouch of the pink metallic salt. "If it speaks at your door, pour this line, thicker than last night." "And if it comes inside anyway?" Tomas held my gaze. "Then don't give it what it wants." I swallowed. "My voice?" "No," he said. "Your story." I didn't understand that until much later. That night,
I put the wax plug in my left ear and lay on my back staring at the ceiling's salt stains. The lamp went out on its own. I didn't move. In the dark, I heard the faintest sound, a bell far away, then another, then a third, not from the tower, from under the floor. And my recorder, sitting on the chair, not recording, lit up. Waveform moving, like something was speaking directly into it.
That night, the bell under the floor didn't ring like metal. It rang like pressure, like air being squeezed through stone. I sat up. The room was dark, but the salt stains on the wall looked faintly luminous, as if they held moonlight inside them. My recorder's screen glowed. The waveform kept moving. I didn't touch it. From outside, a soft scraping started, slow and careful, like someone dragging fingernails across the salt crust. Then my doorbell, no, not a modern bell, rang once. The little salt bell the old man carved for me, hanging from my door handle, gave a tiny, dry chime. Tomas's rule snapped into my head. If it rings, don't open. If it doesn't ring, don't open either. So I stayed still. A voice came, close to the wood, not loud, not aggressive. "Open up," it said, in a voice that sounded like my father's. I haven't heard my father in years, not because he's gone, because we stopped being family the loud way, the way people do when they run out of patience and start using sharp words. I nearly answered on reflex. My chest tightened. The voice softened. "I just want to talk. I'm cold." I pressed my lips together until they hurt. I counted again in my head. I tried to think of nothing but numbers, but memory slipped in like water. A faint smell filled the room, dust and aftershave, my father's aftershave. The doorknob turned. I reached for the salt pouch with shaking hands and poured a thick line at the threshold without standing, sliding it like a desperate child drawing a protective circle. The knob stopped turning. A pause. Then the voice spoke again, still my father's, but wrong now, stretched thin. "Good," it said. "You remembered the salt." My stomach dropped. It wasn't pretending anymore. It was teaching. The voice changed, like someone flipping through stations on a radio. It became my own voice, then Tomas's, then a woman's laugh I'd never heard. "Which one is your favorite?" it asked warmly. I didn't answer. The salt bell chimed once more, this time from inside the room, not at the door. I looked up. The little bell hanging on my door handle was still, but the sound came again, closer, like it was inside the walls. The bell under the floor rang, one heavy pulse, and a whisper slid into my right ear, the one without wax, intimate as breath. "Tell me your first story." I clenched my eyes shut. In the dark, I felt the floor vibrate like something shifting below, settling closer to the surface. And I understood what Tomas meant. It didn't just want sound, it wanted confession.
I found Tomas at dawn, standing near the church as if he'd been there all night. His eyes flicked over me. Did it speak? Yes. What did it use? My father. Tomas nodded like that was expected. It starts with people you can't refuse. He led me behind the church, where a low stone structure crouched like a buried animal. A sealed doorway, old iron bars crusted in salt. "This is the tunnel entrance," he said. "It says not to enter." Tomas's smile was thin. "That rule exists because someone already entered." He produced a small key from his pocket, so corroded it looked grown rather than forged. He slid it into a hidden lock. The metal complained. The door opened with a sigh of stale air that smelled like old rain trapped under rock. "We're not going down," Tomas said quickly. "We're just listening." The darkness beyond the doorway wasn't empty. It had texture, like a room full of velvet curtains. Tomas gestured to my recorder. "Record only the room tone. Don't talk, don't react, don't give it shape." I hit record. The red light blinked. At first, silence. Then, faintly, a chorus of whispers, layered so densely they sounded like one long breath. No distinct words, just the feeling of language happening without meaning. My recorder's level spiked, as if something had leaned into the microphone. Tomas's hand squeezed my wrist, warning me not to flinch. The whispers shifted. One phrase sharpened for a second, clear as a blade. "Say it again." Tomas slammed the door shut so hard the hinges screamed. He leaned against the stone, breathing fast. "It wants repetition. Repetition is a hook." I stared at the sealed entrance, heart hammering. "What is it?" Tomas looked tired, older than yesterday. Some say it's the mountain. Some say it's a god that fell and got buried in salt. My grandmother said it's the town's memory, too heavy, too hungry, unable to die. He met my eyes. "I think it's a mouth." We walked away, and I felt the ground beneath my boots subtly vibrating like distant laughter. At my room, I played back the tunnel recording. There were voices in it, not just whispers. Full sentences, faint but clear. People talking like they were sitting nearby. One of them was mine, saying words I didn't remember saying. "I'll tell you anything you want, just let me go."
By midday, the town felt wrong in a new way. Not silent, but rehearsed. I sat in the cafe and listened. Two women spoke softly at a corner table. Their words were normal. Weather, water, the price of fuel. But the tones didn't match the mouths. One woman's face moved with an old man's cadence. The other's laugh sounded like a child. The owner poured tea without looking at me. "Don't stare," he murmured. "I'm not," he cut me off. "Yes, you are." Outside, a teenage boy kicked at salt crusts near the plaza cracks. He was humming, not loud, just a thin melody. A woman rushed from a doorway and slapped his mouth with her hand, not cruelly, terrifiedly. The boy's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't protest. He looked ashamed, like he'd almost set the house on fire. Tomas found me again. He looked sharper, like he'd made a decision. "We end this," he said. I didn't believe him. "How?" He glanced toward the church tower. "We ring the bells on purpose." My stomach dropped. "That's a rule." "It made the rules," Tomas said. "Rules are just fences. Sometimes you open a gate." We climbed the tower stairs at late afternoon when the sun turned the salt flats into a blinding mirror. Each step creaked. My ears rang with pressure. Up close, the bells looked scarred, pitted, stained white. Someone had etched marks into the metal, circles within circles, like sound waves carved into skin. Tomas tied a cloth around his hand and gripped the rope. "If it answers," I asked, "what do we do?" Tomas's face was grim. "We answer back first." He pulled. The bell rang. The sound was deep and beautiful in the air, and immediately wrong in my body. My ribs vibrated, my tongue tasted copper. The air thickened as if the town itself leaned in. Then from below, no, from everywhere, came the response. A ringing that wasn't metal, a ringing that sounded like memory snapping. Tomas's eyes widened. Now. He forced the rope again, ringing the bell a second time, a deliberate pattern. The answering ring intensified, rising from under the town like a tide. And from the plaza, from the cracks, from the seams I'd been warned not to step on, voices rose, not shouting, but speaking all at once in a layered chant. Names. Not just any names. Our names. Mine included. Tomas grabbed my arm. "Don't listen to the details." But the sound slid under my skull anyway, and for a moment I saw something I shouldn't have. A tunnel lined with salt crystals like teeth. A darkness beyond it shaped like a throat. And in that throat, people, not bodies, not exactly, held as echoes, repeating their last sentences forever. Tomas dragged me down the stairs, and the bell continued to vibrate behind us even after the rope stopped moving. As we hit the ground, the town's lamps blinked on, one by one, like eyes opening, and every window in San Ilario turned toward us.
That night, the town did not go quiet. It held its breath. I stayed in my room, wax plug in one ear, recorder on the table, salt line thick at the threshold like a white scar. Outside, footsteps moved, many footsteps, but I saw no shadows under the door. The steps sounded too synchronized, like a parade rehearsing in darkness. Then the first knock came, gentle, polite. A woman's voice, "We brought you soup." Second knock, a child, "Are you scared?" Third knock, my own voice, cheerful, "Come on, man, open up, we're friends." I stared at the door until my eyes watered. The knocks stopped. Silence. Then, from the street beyond, I heard something that chilled me more than any voice. Applause. Soft, slow clapping, like an audience appreciating a performance. The clapping moved closer, surrounded my building, as if the town itself was standing around my room in a circle, waiting for the next act. My recorder began recording by itself again. The red light blinked. On the screen, the audio levels climbed, peaking, like someone was speaking directly into the microphone at close range. But the room remained empty. A whisper slid into my right ear again. "Tell us the story where you became the man with the voice." I bit my tongue, hard. Pain anchored me. The whisper returned, patient as hunger. "Just the beginning."
The salt line at my threshold trembled, grains shifting as if they were alive. The applause outside stopped all at once. Then the whole town spoke, every voice at the same time, in a perfect unison that sounded like a choir made of stolen throats. Begin. I didn't want to, but something in me, the part that performs when terrified, almost did. Because I'm trained to fill silence. I'm trained to speak when a room waits. I realized in that instant how dangerous my job had always been here. The floor vibrated. I heard a bell ring under the bed, dry and close, like salt tapping bone. And then, the worst thing, a small, familiar click from my own mouth, the beginning of a word forming before I chose it. I slapped my hand over my lips. The town waited, the recorder waited, the salt waited, and Tomas's voice, faint and urgent, came through the wall, not from outside, but from inside the plaster, like the building itself had learned him. "Don't feed it with truth," it whispered. "Feed it with fiction." I didn't understand how that would help, but I understood this. It wanted something to hold. So I did the only thing I could do without giving it myself. I began to tell a story that wasn't mine, and as I spoke quietly into my palm, the pressure in the room eased, like the salt relaxed, satisfied by the shape of sound, even if the meaning was wrong. Outside, the applause returned, faster now, excited.
At dawn, Tomas came for me. His face looked hollow, like he hadn't slept for years. "It's learning your rhythms," he said. "We don't have time." He led me to the back of the church again. This time he didn't stop at the door. He unlocked it and stepped inside the tunnel entrance. Every instinct screamed no. But behind that fear was a worse truth. It already knew me. Avoiding it wasn't safety anymore, just delay. We descended with a lantern that gave weak, trembling light. The walls glittered with salt crystals. Each sparkle felt like an eye. The air grew colder, wetter. The whispers grew clearer, not louder, closer. Then we reached a chamber. In the center was a pit, not wide, but deep, lined with salt formations that curved inward like ribs. The darkness at the bottom didn't look like absence. It looked like depth with intention. Tomas knelt at the edge, shoulders shaking. "Mother," he said, soft, careful, like saying it too loudly would tear something. From below came an answer, a woman's voice, calm and distant, speaking a phrase that repeated with a slight delay, like an echo trapped in a loop. "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." Tomas's eyes filled. He looked at me. "It keeps them as recordings," he said, "like insects in resin." The pit answered us with a sound that was almost a chuckle. Then the darkness spoke in my own voice, perfectly. "Welcome, finally." My skin prickled. I forced myself not to react. Tomas held up a small cloth bundle. "We came to trade." The pit waited. Tomas's lips trembled. "My voice," he said. "Take mine, give hers back." The pit vibrated with pleasure.
Then it said, in a voice that blended Tomas's tone with mine, as if tasting both, "Not enough." Tomas's fists clenched. "What do you want?" The darkness paused, as if choosing the cruelest answer. "Your storyteller," it said. Tomas turned sharply toward me. "No." The pit's voice softened. "He is already mine half. He fills silence for a living. He cannot resist." I took a step back. Lantern light shook in my hand. The darkness continued. "Give me his true story, his first shame, his oldest lie, one clean confession, then I release one echo." Tomas looked torn apart. "Don't," he whispered to me, "don't give it anything real." But the pit waited, and I felt its attention like a hand inside my chest, squeezing gently until I wanted to speak, just to breathe again. So I did what Tomas told me. I lied. I told it a confession that wasn't mine, a carefully crafted piece of pain, believable, detailed, delivered in my best narration voice. The pit drank it anyway. For a moment, the pressure eased, the whispers calmed. Then the darkness laughed, quietly, triumphantly. "That one," it said, "was good, but it was not yours." The lantern flickered, and from deep below, a new voice rose, my father's voice again, speaking words I'd never heard him say. "I'm proud of you." I froze. The pig had learned how to weaponize mercy. Tomas grabbed my arm hard and yanked me back. "Run," he hissed. Behind us, the tunnel walls began to sing, crystals vibrating like 1,000 tiny bells.
We didn't run like heroes. We ran like guilty men fleeing a courtroom. Up the steps, out the iron door, into the pale morning where the world looked too normal to be trusted. But the town wasn't normal anymore. Every lamp was on, even though it was daylight. Every door stood slightly open as if the houses were breathing. People stood in the plaza, motionless, facing the church like they were waiting for a sermon. Tomas pulled me toward the tower stairs. "We ring the bells," he said, breathless. "Not the pattern from yesterday, the leaving pattern." "I don't know it." Tomas's face was desperate. "I do." We climbed. My legs shook. My lungs burned. At the bells, Tomas grabbed the rope with both hands and began to ring, not random, not frantic, but deliberate, like a code. The sound rolled over the town, heavy and clean. For a moment, everything paused. Then the answering ring surged up from the ground, violent now, angry. The air thickened, and the salt flats beyond shimmered like water. The town below responded in unison, mouths moving together. "Stay!" Tomas rang again, harder. The rope bit his hands. Blood spotted the cloth wrap. The ground answered with a roar of whispers. The bell tower vibrated so violently, dust fell from the beams. Tomas leaned close to me, shouting over the sound without shaping the words too clearly. "It can't stop a leaving bell if the storyteller refuses the stage." "What does that mean?" "It means you stop performing for it." I looked down at the town. Every face turned up toward us, eyes wide, expectant, hungry for my reaction. The whole place was an audience, and I understood it fed on response, on attention, on the invisible bond between a voice and those who receive it. So I did something I'd never done in my life. I went silent
on purpose. I didn't gasp, I didn't curse, I didn't narrate. I let the fear exist without giving it language. The bell kept ringing under Tomas's hands. The town's unison chant wavered like a song losing its key. "Stay," they repeated, but it sounded less certain now. The answering ring from the ground shifted, less like laughter, more like frustration. Tomas rang the final note of the leaving pattern, and the world changed. The salt flats beyond the town cracked, not physically, but visually, like a mirage breaking. For one heartbeat, I saw the town as it truly was, a bowl carved into salt, filled with trapped voices, with seams like mouths everywhere. Then the vision snapped back. Below us, the townspeople blinked as if waking. Some stumbled, some clutched their throats like they'd been speaking too long. Tomas sagged against the beam, shaking. "It's open. The road is open." We didn't wait. We ran. At the town's edge, the sign stood unchanged. "Please speak softly. The salt listens." As I crossed the boundary, my ears popped. The air felt suddenly lighter. My voice returned to my throat like it had been held back by a hand. Behind me, far off, a bell rang once, soft, almost affectionate. Not a warning, a farewell. I never recorded in San Ilario again. But sometimes, late at night, when my apartment is quiet and my work is done, my recorder, powered off, stored away, lights up, waveform moving, and in the faintest layer beneath the static, I hear applause, waiting for my next story.